Hello and welcome to another episode of the Reloop Brief, where we take a concise look at the policies, systems and ideas shaping the circular economy. In this special two-part series, Shraddha Kumar is speaking with Emily Alfred from the Toronto Environmental Alliance, also known as T, about reuse at major events and what the FIFA World Cup has shown so far about the opportunities and challenges of moving away from single-use cups and foodware. T's work has been looking at whether Canada was ready to bring reusable foodware into large events. The answer is more complicated than simply whether the public will use reusable cups.
I'm Shraddha Kumar, and we're here in sunny and slightly rainy Toronto, where FIFA fever has taken the city, if not the world, by storm. Now we're in the thick of things, and Emily, we wanted an update on how things are looking for Toronto and Vancouver, which are hosts for the FIFA Games in 2026.
Thank you for having me. It's great to talk to more people about this stuff. I'm such a waste nerd, and I really am happy to talk about it all the time.
So could you talk us through, what your report was about, what you found? Because I understand there are numbers that are staggering. I hear 2.3 million containers could have been avoided that are now single use, but they could have been avoided if reusables had been at play. So could you tell us something about that?
Yeah. So, and at T, we have been advocates of zero waste in a circular economy for many years. And reusable dishes, reusable cups and foodware, they feel like low-hanging fruit when it comes to making the sort of societal shift away from single-use packaging.
Mm-hmm.
Feels easy, feels doable, especially when we see big events like the Paris Olympics had reusable cups and dishes for fans, for staff, for athletes, for volunteers. And we're like, wow, if the Paris Olympics, an event on that big of a scale, can do reusables, surely when FIFA comes to Toronto, they could also do reusables. So we were really, sort of excited. And, to be honest, we have been talking about reuse and reusable cups and dishes for a while, partly because municipalities actually have regulatory jurisdiction over foodware and cups and dishes and how food is served at restaurants. So we said, okay, let's look at what a municipality can do. Let's talk about reuse. One sort of thing I went through is talked to councillors, went to committee meetings, did research, presented that to different councillors and different government staff. And I think they were getting a little bit bored hearing about this whole concept of reuse. They're like, yeah, it sounds interesting. Sounds like something that might work well in Europe and other places, but I don't know about here. And then when FIFA came up and we talked about it, like, okay, the city's thinking big. People are talking about the billions of dollars going into this huge event. What can the city get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to jump on that bandwagon and use it as a hook to get more people talking about, okay, what do events do? They make a lot of waste. They can be a really big problem, but can we also use them as like a turning point to introduce more people to sustainable practices? So for this report, we had funding from Environment and Climate Change Canada, and it gave us the time to talk to reuse service providers, event managers, hospitality staff, and different groups who had already been sort of pioneering and leading the way on reuse. We were really excited to know that the reuse service providers in Canada and those events and festivals that had already done it were proof that Canada could do it, that this wasn't just a European model. It wasn't just a niche thing that was happening in some parts of California, but Canada was ready. So our report really sort of went through like, what do we mean by reuse? What's the environmental impact? What's the return rate we need? What are some of the lessons we're learning from reuse service providers in Canada? And what kind of recommendations would we have for the city of Toronto or for FIFA organizers to bring reuse here? And we did some quick calculations, imagining all the matches are sold out and people are thirsty and they have 1 or 2 drinks per person at an event. If all of those drinks were served in reusable cups instead of single-use packaging or disposable cups, that could avoid 2.3 million disposables. And then the fan festivals, which have been underestimated because they are 22 days or 25 days and they go for much longer. So, we looked at like this, there's so much garbage that comes from these events. Why not use it as a moment for good?
How much of a change can a one-off event like FIFA create?
The thing about a big event like this is that even though it's a one-time thing, it can really be a catalyst to change because suddenly you've introduced thousands, millions of visitors to reuse. But maybe more importantly is you've now introduced hospitality managers, event managers, volunteers, staff, restaurant workers, waste management companies suddenly now see reuse and get it. And from an advocate perspective, it's those decision makers that are the ones that really need to witness it, not the audiences and guests who are kind of captive. And not a spoiler, but no, we couldn't get them all to do it. We had some mixed success.
There have been different policies and different organizers operating at both those events, the stadiums where the matches are held, and then the fan festivals, which are their own thing, which, as I understand, the city government is responsible for. Would you say the obstruction is largely administrative, or, it not being something that consumers would want to uptake, or from the policy side?
Yeah, when it comes down to it, I have to say, like, a mega event like FIFA, a mega event at all, has so many layers of complexity and temporary relationships and new companies that start up just to do things. And the complexity for a city to grapple with that is so big. So big events have all of their own complexities. Then you have a big organization like FIFA, which has, very tight control of their brand, their image. They have very specific requirements from their sponsors and very specific requirements of any host city or venue or contractor who works with them. So that adds all these additional layers. From my own experience talking with municipal staff and talking to other reuse groups and hospitality people, this level of confusion over who gets to make what decision was actually pretty consistent. And I'll be really honest with you, we didn't expect that we would get 100% reuse. I would have been shocked if we had got it, but we pushed, and it gave us the opportunity to bring the issue forward. I would say that there were times when we thought we might get a little bit further along. There's a lot of pressures from a major organization like FIFA that is calling the shots. Their sponsors, their brand management, and then municipal governments that are also just got a lot of other things on their mind. They are not big event managers. But I would say that policy and a strict regulation locally probably would have made the difference. So the Paris Olympics in 2024 had all reusables. And it's because there was national regulations around reusables for on-site food and drink, and they just had to comply with it. So when there's all these complex layers of whose fault and whose responsibility and the complexities of stakeholders and incentives and costs and benefits, policy is the clear path through that just levels the playing field and tells everyone, this is what you got to do, get on with it.
And I would imagine that would take the onus off the consumer as well.
When it comes to a lot of waste regulations and sustainability regulations, there's such a tendency by some groups to blame the consumer. Oh, well, people want this. People are buying garbage. People want these things. We have to keep our customers happy.
Yeah.
But the reality is so different. When you have people paying hundreds, thousands of dollars to get into something like the FIFA stadium, they don't want to spend $25 for a pint of beer, but they will because they have to, and whatever it's served in. So this is not about what consumers want. It's about what they're offered. And I think it's an illusion that consumers have choice, because survey after survey shows that people like reusables. It's a better experience and people love that.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that was also my takeaway after visiting the fan festival. There were a certain kind of reusable water bottles allowed inside the venue. People brought their reusable water bottles. There were a few refill stations, but they were all crowded because people were using their reusable water bottles. So thank you for that perspective. And while this is, of course, a big missed opportunity for megacities like Toronto and Vancouver, at least from Canada's perspective, could you talk to us about the differences in what you observe both in the stadium versus the fan festival?
Yeah, so I'm harping on about not getting the reuse we wanted at FIFA. We did see some progress. So people talking about reuse in both Toronto and Vancouver, where the host cities had more control, which was at the fan festival, we actually did get some wins. We got some reusable systems. So in the Toronto Fan Fest, in a certain VIP zone, all the food is served on reusable dishes by default, reusable cups by default. And while it's not the entire fan festival zone, it still will avoid thousands of disposable dishes. And it is introducing this hospitality company, this event management company, and all those people are having a great experience, being like, oh, this is so nice to be on reusable dishes. Yeah. The city is also evaluating how it's going and going to assess the impact it had. So this is information about how this works. And hopefully that will inform future policies in Mark. In Vancouver, also in select zones, they have reusable cups for poured drinks. Also another great success. Not everywhere, not all the food, but really We can't get everything right. And it's just great that when there was the opportunity and some control by the city, they chose reuse. And in both of those cases, they're also supporting a local reuse business that is now able to hire more people, bring in more experience, and they're helping build that local circular economy.
Emily Alfred from Toronto's Environmental Alliance speaking to Reloop's Shraddha Kumar about reuse, the FIFA World Cup, and the role of policy in making better systems possible. We'll continue this conversation in the next episode of the Reloop Brief, where we'll also be looking at some of the reuse examples that are already working in Toronto and what they can teach future events. And remember, you can check out previous episodes of the Reloop Brief at reloopplatform.org.